to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis Rosa, and I'm your host. Today, I have a very special guest, very good friend of mine, Shehara Wooten, and she is a 16-year veteran of the financial services industry. She's a certified financial planner, founder of Your Story Financial LLC, which is a virtual fiduciary boutique firm committed to helping women and STEM professionals. She graduated with a BS in electrical and computer engineering, my old job. In 2004, she changed careers to pursue her purpose of helping clients achieve financial success. With her first financial services role, she worked with a global financial services company and never looked back. 5 years later, she became a financial advisor so that she can help individuals and families improve their financial position in a bigger way. With some time in the profession, she recognized there was a limit to who she could help. If you didn't already have assets, you were mostly on your own until you accumulated assets. If you were younger and didn't have an inheritance or something like that, you would likely get passed over by a well-meaning financial advisor. This didn't sit well with her, and she wanted to help people craft their amazing financial success story, regardless of their age or amount of assets. She realized there was another way. So by becoming a fee-only certified financial planner professional, she helps gainfully employed women and STEM professionals who hadn't quite accumulated the assets required to work with a traditional financial professional access solid financial planning. That was the birth of Your Story Financial, a virtual fiduciary boutique firm. And without further ado, Shehara, welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me on today. I'm looking forward to this conversation, Luis.
My pleasure. Yeah, I'm super excited because in addition to that wonderful bio, you are also a brand new author. You are the author of In the Meantime, Own Your Financial Narrative, which is why I chose this topic for this particular episode, because I just love it and I can't wait to hear more about it.
Yes.
Before we get into the book and all that, could you tell us a little bit more about just how you got here to the financial profession and having owned your own practice and how you decided to work with those that you want to work with?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I actually just never thought that I would be owning my own financial planning practice. I always had an entrepreneurial bug in me, though. I always had that. But to actually own my own planning practice, I just didn't even know that you could do that. So I, like you had read in my bio, I started out as an engineer, and then, just really my passion developed because I wanted to help more people with their finances because we just don't learn about it in school. And then while I was working at the company, the financial planning company that I used to work at, I realized, I really changed careers because I want to help people who may not know about how to do this. I want to help people that were like me when I was 25 years old and I was socking away a lot of money in my 401k, but I didn't realize there was a need for an emergency fund. Like I just didn't even know those basic things. And so I wanted to help more people like that. And I felt like I was coming away from that. Like I was just getting further and further away from why I joined the industry and the profession. So I did have a friend who had left the previous firm that I used to work at, and I called her and I asked her, what are you doing? And she said, well, I started a tax practice. And I was like, oh, that's great. Because my dad, he still has a tax business. So I was familiar with that. But then she said, and then I'm going to start my own firm. And I was like, what? And it was funny because I was in my office. It was 6:00 p.m. The door was locked to the storefront, but I shut the door to my office and nobody was there. But I was like, let me shut my door and let me find out more about how are you starting your own financial planning practice? And so that's where I learned about that process. And that was in 2016. 2016, it was March 7th, 2016. I remember the exact day, about 6 o'clock. And I just went on that journey. And by July 2016, I started Your Story Financial because it just aligned better with how I wanted to help people and help them achieve the financial freedom they desire.
I love that. I can picture you getting up like, wait a minute, what? Hold on, let me close this door.
Yeah, right.
Rewind for a second. What do you mean you're opening your own firm?
That is exactly. And I was just like, how was I in the dark all these years? I just, when I was in my engineering around 2001, 2002, I was on this journey and I was interviewing with all these, broker dealers because I thought that was the way to go. I interviewed with some insurance places. And so I just knew that. And it's like, how did, from 2002 to 2016, I had no idea that there was this other side of the financial planning profession.
Yeah. What you said resonates with me so much because I had a similar experience, both as an individual, growing up, like my parents never had a job that offered a 401k. They worked in factories and stuff like that. So we never had that at home. Never had it in school. So when I first graduated, it's like 401k, what? I have no idea what this is. And like you said, I didn't know about, emergency funds or how to use credit cards. That was a major pitfall in my earlier career. I had no idea how to properly use a credit card.
Right. The college campus is giving you what, like
yeah.
Shirt.
Yes. I remember the applications for credit cards were in the books when I went to the library, to the bookstore to buy them. They were, and I would get approved for them without a job, with zero income. And, they have a customer for life. It truly is. And then on the professional side, I agree with you so much too, because I grew up in the world of the broker dealer. You work with people that have money, have accumulated assets. And that was the name of the game, right? Growing that book or maybe selling some products, either mutual funds or insurance or something like that, and so many people get overlooked by that model because not everybody has $500,000 to say, here you go, invest this for me and then give me some advice while you're at it, right?
Exactly.
So it's amazing. So I'm so glad that you came to that aha moment. And as of the recording of this podcast, I actually it's my 1-year anniversary from my own firm got approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
And to tell you how crazy it is, 3 years ago, I would not have dreamed. It was not in my goals to own my own firm. I didn't even know that you could do that. So it was just like such an evolution.
We had the same thing. I mean, March 2016 is when I figured it out. If I know that people asked me in 2015, are you ever going to own your own firm? No, why would I do that? I already have a system. And I didn't even know how you do that or if you could. So my answer was just, no, I'm good. I'm already working for myself anyway, but I was giving away like 60% of my income every month. And it was just like, whoa, this is not adding up.
Right. So now you keep your income, you get to work with those that you have the most impact with and still make a good living, right? So
yes,
it's a win-win.
It is.
Without a doubt. So thank you for sharing that. So I want you to tell us a little bit about some of the reasons behind writing the book before we get to the book. And by the way, for those of you listening, I want you to stay till the end because we're going to have a book giveaway. So I'll give you some of the details as soon as the paperback is available sometime in September. I'm going to give away 4 books with a personal note from Shehara. So stick around for the details. So tell us a little bit about the racial wealth gap.
Yeah. So I think the racial wealth gap really attributes to, or there's a lot of things that attribute to the racial wealth gap. I'll start with that. One of the things that I learned was that there is, by 2053, Black wealth will have gone to zero. And that's astounding. That is absolutely astounding to even fathom. How is that even possible that it would go to zero amongst the whole community? So once I heard that, and that was already part of my driving force, but once I heard that fact, it was just like, okay, you need to do something even more than just your firm, but how do you reach more people? And how do I become a part of the solution? Because all of us can play a part in how do we reduce or make sure this does not happen. And there is a 228-year wealth gap between Black families and white families. And all of that, there's a lot of history behind how that even came to be. But it is something that I just feel like we can reverse. And how do we do that? I know that obviously there's things that need to be done by the government and all that good stuff. But writing the book, I wanted to say, in the meantime, until we get like economic justice served, until we get reparations, until all these things that really should happens, what is it that we can do? And in the meantime, until that day comes, and I hope that day comes, but until then, what do we need to do?
Wow. I love that. I love that because it gives you so much meaning. Originally I read the title, "In the Meantime, Own Your Financial Journey," your own financial narrative. And now when you explain it that way, it's so powerful. It's like,
Thank you.
all these wrongs have happened. There's a reason why we're behind. However, you still can't take control of your own destiny, right? In the meantime.
In the meantime, exactly. I was just like, it just came to me. I was like, well, in the meantime, because you just hear that phrase and I'm like, what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah, there's still some actionable steps in the meantime, right? I love that. I love that. So I know you mentioned a little bit about how we arrived at the wealth cap and all, and I wanted to hear a little bit also about Black Wall Street. That's one of the things that you have mentioned to me in the past. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, and actually in my book, I write about that in the introduction, but throughout the book, I am sprinkling in history because to me, I have to know my history. History motivates me, knowing where I've come from and what has happened in the past. But Black Wall Street is based out of Greenwood, Oklahoma, and it was formulated in the early mid 1900s. And the founder, his name is O.W. Gurley. He actually, him and his wife, Emma, he was born from enslaved Africans. Had just been freed. And and so he and his wife, his childhood sweetheart, they set out during the homesteading, which I didn't even realize that I knew there were homestead acts. I knew that people were able to go and stake claim on property in the West Coast. But I didn't realize that there were Black people that were able to stake claim on property. And O.W. Gurley was one of those people. And so it was about 40 acres that he was able to stake claim on in Greenwood, which is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right inside of Tulsa. And he was determined that he was going to give money or give the land out or sell the land, not give it, but sell the land only to Black Americans. And so from that point, Tulsa or Greenwood, it began to flourish and grow. There were salons and movie theaters and just grocery stores, really any type of business that you needed to make a town thrive. Those were developed. And he had, he had like a whole street. He had houses. He had a lot of property. And so from there, it became just a very thriving place. And it also became so because of segregation, because of Jim Crow and all of these things, it became a self-sufficient, self-sustaining community. Because you couldn't go to a grocery store outside of Greenwood unless it was Black owned because of segregation. So you had to make it work. And that's what they did. And from the research that I found, there was anywhere the Black dollar lasted about a year in that community. And the range was just huge. And the range of, how long it flipped over or stayed in the community was anywhere from 19 to 100 times. It was just utilized over and over again. So it's very interesting. So the reason why I'm bringing all that up is because there was unfortunately a crazy incident a Black man, I forget his name. He ended up going into a hotel, and there was a hotel operator, a white woman. He tripped or something happened. Somehow he's in the hotel, he's in the elevator. She screams and cries and accuses him of rape. So from there, the news spread around the town, and there was, basically it became an all-out war. There were white males, or just white community members decided to just, we're going to go to war. Initially, there were quite a few people in Greenwood, the Black Americans that held their ground. They had guns, but they were overpowered. Some accounts say that they felt like there were bombs being dropped over the town of Greenwood. So there are accounts saying that it could have been potentially that even the government got involved in the destruction of Greenwood. But it basically was completely annihilated June 1st, 1921. So on June 1st, 1921, it would have been 100 years that Greenwood, Black Wall Street got completely destroyed. Yeah, so it's a horrible story, and O.W. Gurley is said to have, I believe, he had lost everything, about 150,000 at that time, which they said in today's dollars would be about 5 million. So just imagine like all the people that lost their businesses, lost their livelihood, lost their homes. And today, what that would have accumulated to had they been able to keep it. So they said in today's dollars, all of the, and I've seen ranges, it's been anywhere from 20 million, maybe to 100 million, but basically, in today's dollars, it would be in the multi millions of dollars that property, land, businesses, just being able to pass that on, all of that, wealth was completely diminished. And that's, and they're not the only community. There was Rosewood, there was Wilmington, North Carolina. There were quite a few, even Ocala, Florida. I mean, because of voting. I mean, if you look, if you just look at history, a lot of this has been put underground, not told. We don't learn this in school. I don't think I learned about this till I was much older. I was taught a lot about Black history growing up, but somehow I did not learn about Black Wall Street, and I would hear rumors about it as I got older. And then this book just made me want to really do more research about it. So there's still claims that need to be made, and there's a whole organization now fighting for those reparations for the descendants of those who were killed or their property destroyed. So they're fighting today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so insightful into why there is a wealth gap. I mean, like you said, you imagine if that really got properly passed down to the heirs and they have been able to continue to thrive in those properties and businesses. I was reading an article recently. I'm in California, and it was a similar situation where a Black family, their property was taken away by eminent domain by the government. And they were just saying it's like beachfront property in California on the coast, like super expensive real estate. And like they were just saying, like, imagine these people were able to keep their homes, right? And that property now, like what it would be worth. It's a whole different story, right? So
exactly.
I think they were also a great example for those 100 years of In the Meantime, right?
Yes.
Which is amazing, right? And they had it probably, I would say definitely worse than things are now. Obviously they've gotten better, but that past still does haunt us without a doubt.
It does. And there's even descendants that I even got to listen to some of the descendants speak about it. And, that they've heard stories about how this has happened. And one of the descendants, he's the CEO of Ariel Investments, which is the Black mutual fund company. His father was one of the other, like there was O.W. Gurley, and then there was J.B. Stratford, and that was I believe his great grandfather. But all of them, after that all happened, they fled because they were going to be killed. So it's just it's just the legacy that that these people have. but just knowing that they're behind because of those, because of what happened back then, and just how that compounds on other people. Like, if I were to look at my history and see where we are now today versus where we could have been. I don't have a story like the Black Wall Street, but I know that all of these types of examples had an impact on where our family is today.
Definitely have a compounding effect, without a doubt. So tell us about the book now. So you have some stories as well in there from individuals that you've interviewed?
Yes, yes. So to make it, not just like your typical personal finance. I mean, there's a lot of personal finance books out there. But I think what makes this different too is just that I believe that there has to be some inspiring stories too of people who have overcome despite all the challenges and what has happened. And there were some folks that I've met over the years or was introduced to that I felt would be really good to be interviewed for this book. And one that I'll mention is Antoinette Monroe. She's like 35, maybe 36, somewhere around there. But as soon as she graduated from college, she was just like, I don't really want to work for anybody. But she got a good job and she started working, and then she got caught up in that rat race. Like, wow, I'm getting all the perks. I'm flying across the country. I'm in these suites for for basketball games that the company is funding. But she really had to get back to, I want to be out of debt. I don't want college debt. I don't want, student loans anymore. And she was very focused about making sure that she that she got out of debt. And so she was able to pay off her student loans, $32,000, I believe, in about 2 years. And then from there, she was able to take and save $50,000. Wow. And I believe in about a year. Now, I tell these stories to encourage people and just to get their mind going. They don't have to have the same situation or the same scenario, but the fact that she was able to get out of debt, $32,000, and then in a year have $50,000 is amazing. And part of it is she moved back home soon after college. So she was able to work it out where her company gave her a relocation package to somewhere that was in the city that she grew up. And she negotiated a deal with her parents. She told them, for this first year, I'm not going to pay you rent. They agreed.
She dictated the terms. Here are my terms.
Exactly. And I said, wow, not everybody can do that. But I want everybody to just be encouraged that you can be creative. So she moved back home. She lived off of $400 a month, she said. Then everything else she saved. Everything else. It's amazing. And that's how she was able to save up for $50,000 over that year. And then the second year, she did pay her parents some rent and still lived and I know people hate this, but she lived, very frugally. But she said her colleagues, her friends were all traveling and going places. And she asked them, how are you guys able to do this? I thought we all had student loans. And yeah. They were like, yeah, we have student loans, but we're still going to travel. We're going to live our best life. And she decided that wasn't the path she was going to take, and then ended up buying property, fixing it up, buying the ugliest property on the street, fixed it up on her own. And then she ended up living in it and then deciding to take like the patio area, fix that up, make that into a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. Then she was living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and then ended up renting out one of the sides. And from there, she was able to become like an accidental Airbnb real estate investor. She was bringing in like $2,500 to $3,500 a month just from doing that. And it was all from an accident, but she realized, I really like renting. I like real estate. So you got to find what you enjoy. And she liked that better than her corporate job. So it was like she was getting back to what she originally enjoyed. And now she's out there, an accidental real estate investor. So it's just a really neat story to help people just to say, okay, what can I do with the skills that I have? What do I enjoy? What do I like? And continue to move forward and create a situation that's worth it for you.
Yeah, and I really like that because it speaks to owning your financial narrative. She came to the realization that being an employee is not for me. Obviously that's not for everybody. Not everybody has that entrepreneurial spirit. But I like what you say. It's like find what you like and then figure out a way to make money from it. I know you have another example of a gentleman that does work for corporate America, but he went the route of equity compensation, right?
So yeah, I'll tell a little bit details on that one. Yeah, he got a revelation about equity compensation actually. So he told me that he didn't really get it, but he had a mentor that told him this is how you actually can make money in corporate. But he was like one of those. I'm in business. I love business, but he worked for the company that he worked for and was very committed. And he ended up, at around 33, deciding to work with a financial planner. And he said the financial planner helped him to get a plan together for his life. And by the time he was 40, he was able to leave the company if he wanted, but he stayed there. But through the course of that process regarding the equity compensation, he learned that that is where you can really make your money in corporate, was having some equity compensation. When I asked him, did he actually get it? He said, no, but that's where I learned about it, was through a mentor, and he's Black, but he had a mentor who was a white male that worked for the company. And he said, this is what you need to start
doing. Yeah, gave him the inner scoop.
Yes, the inner scoop. And he said, wow, that's something to start to negotiate for. He stayed with the same company. It was like it was a chemical type company, and they weren't very much into equity compensation. But he said if he could have done it over again, he would definitely incorporated that, which I thought was just really powerful. But once he decided that it was time for, well, what he did was he worked from 33 to 48 for the company, but the company decided that they needed to do some downsizing and either downsize or he could move to another city. At the time, he was living in Atlanta, had a family, and he told them, I'm just going to quit, or I'm going to take the severance. So he gave himself choices because he was able to, work out things outside of his company, real estate businesses that he started. And then he had a choice to be able to say, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to pick up and move my family. We're going to stay here in Atlanta. I'm going to take your severance package. And that way I don't have to, start all over because I need to work at the company. He said, I don't need to anymore. And that happened at 40 where he didn't need to. He stayed there by choice.
Yeah, that's freedom for you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So he was able to create his own definition of financial freedom. And I just thought that was so powerful. And he had a family at the same time. So there were sacrifices. I don't think he made like the sacrifices like Antoinette, the person I talked about before, but his name was Eric. I don't think that he had to go as, stripped down. I don't know if Antoinette did beans and rice, not sure. What did,
ramen noodles.
Right, ramen noodles. I mean, I eat beans, lentils, and quinoa. So, hey, you could still do well eating that way. But I think he still had to, provide for his family at the same time.
Right. And, and I love what you're saying because it's like you own your own financial narrative. Some people might want to go that route where they're going to be super frugal so they can retire earlier and live a certain lifestyle. Some people might enjoy traveling more now, but they make sacrifices elsewhere. So it's still like, you know what? I'm not going to drive the fancy car, even though I could, because I want to have experiences. So I'm going to have a bigger travel budget, right? I'm still putting money in my 401k. I still have my emergency savings. I'm just choosing to do different things with my money, right? So you get to own that and design it, which is like the biggest thing of it all. You're creating choice for yourself.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that. And that, to me, that's what I like to help people do, is just to help them figure out what is your definition of financial freedom. Own your own narrative. All these people, the people I just mentioned, they both grew up poor, and they realize, I don't want this life, so what do I do to do something different? And Eric was really big about, he had only seen, like, he's in his 50s now, so he grew up with Jet magazine and all these magazines, and everybody that was doing well was in the entertainment industry. So he was just like, well, where are the people like that are working and entrepreneurs and working jobs? Like, how do they make it in the world? And so that's where he just felt, I'm going to have to be a part of that, make that happen and gravitate towards. So Black Enterprise was a big magazine for him, to help him change his mindset that he could do it without being a basketball player or a rapper, or something like that. Nothing wrong with that. But, how many people actually can make it with that?
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I remember growing up in Washington Heights in New York City, for the most part, people that quote unquote made it, right? Like, they were either very good at basketball, right? So we had some friends that, they went to play professional ball. Rappers was another. And then the downside, the bad side to it, drug dealers, they were balling too, and those are the examples, and you reminded me of something Chris Rock said in one of his specials. He lives in that, I think it's called Alpine, New Jersey at the time. I'm not sure if he still lives there, but it's a very like rich neighborhood in New Jersey. And he was saying like the rich Black people that were in the neighborhood were in the entertainment business, and he noticed like, my neighbor's a dentist. He's like, my neighbor's a white dentist. He's like, it takes for me to be like the super successful entertainment person. And then, but he's like, my neighbor's a dentist. And he got the same house, like we're in the same neighborhood,
What?
so
Yes.
I was like, wow, that's so powerful, right?
It is.
So there is a way. There's certainly a way to do it.
There is a way to do it.
So I want to go back a little to what you mentioned about one of your examples in the book that decided to hire a financial planner. I think that is also very important. Obviously, I'm a little biased towards it because we are financial planners ourselves, right? But when you think about it, the best people in the world at their craft, the Michael Jordans of the world, the famous actors and actresses, they have coaches still, even though they're the best at what they do, because there's a certain perspective that you get when you hire a professional that's not you, right?
So true.
Yeah. So that's also important too. If you don't know where to start, the first step might just be to reach out to a financial planner and say, here's what I have. Here's what I'm trying to do. How do I get started? It might be a very small step, but the road to a great journey begins with that single step, right? So be sure that, you don't have to be an entrepreneur or have a talent necessarily to create your own financial narrative.
I love it. And that's so true. And the thing that another team member that he added, which I think you'll love too, is he had a tax advisor, right? So he had a tax advisor, but he said, I think she could do a little bit more for me than being just do my taxes. And he started to really pull from the knowledge that she had on how does he do something more than his 401k. And she was very helpful with that, along with the financial planner. So he got a team together basically. And I think that's so powerful,
Absolutely. And, sometimes you'd be surprised, like the moves that you can make that save you money from a tax standpoint or something where you're having more net income without necessarily having to earn more. It's just because you're paying less taxes on what you already do earn. That's one way right there. So absolutely, having that team in place, they don't have to be your full-time employees. It could just be as simple as having a very savvy tax person and a financial planner, right?
Exactly. I agree. And, and you're like that one-stop shop. So that makes it really nice.
Right. Yeah, I'm greedy that way. I'm like, I'm doing your taxes, your financial planning, your investment. Yeah.
I love it.
For sure. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the things, let's say if somebody was to be in an elevator with you, they're going up an 8-story building and they only have like 30 seconds with you, like what are some of the things that you would say to them? Like, here are some takeaways that I, as a financial planner and a business owner, can give you as a takeaway to at least get started on your own financial narrative.
Yeah, no, that's great. My biggest thing is don't be discouraged. Don't be ashamed. I think a lot of times people have, shame that comes with their finances, but turn it into being disciplined. Take your story and really own it. And then we've talked about it, but find a financial planner professional. Find someone that can help you, who can educate you, encourage you, hold you accountable. And of course, somebody that you can trust. So if I had that 30 seconds, those are the snippets that I would provide really quickly to have them be able to take the financial freedom and make it their own.
Yeah, I really love that. You said the first part was not to be ashamed and embarrassed. There are people who purposely don't go to the doctor because they don't want to hear if they have high cholesterol or something. They're just rather not know. Yeah, there are people who don't open their bills or an IRS letter because they're just afraid of what's in it. It may not be as bad as you think. And also realize that we're all humans. I put it on my website when you look me up, like, we talked about credit cards in college. That was one of my first mistakes. I had credit cards before I even had a job, like out of college. Those were mistakes. I was charging up trips to Cancun. I couldn't really afford that,
Right.
So learn from your mistakes, own them, learn from it, and think about it. Yes, it was an expensive tuition, basically, right? You learned, you made, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's fine, Now you know what not to do going forward.
You know what not to do, right? I mean, sick people, they have to go to the hospital. You can't be like, oh, let me get well, then go to the hospital. And then I also use the example for those who go to church. You can't be like, oh, I'm going to get saved once I'm doing good. Like once I've got everything right, I'm going to go to the altar. Like it just doesn't work that way. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, because I used to use the same analogy. There's some people who don't want to go to the gym because they don't like the way they look and they feel embarrassed because there's like other people there that might look better than them. And so I'm like, well, that's how that's one of the steps, right? So you can't get fit elsewhere and then go to the gym, right?
Right, exactly. And if the home gym wasn't working, then like that you need to be around people. So yeah, it takes community overall. It takes community. And that I do talk about that in the book. That's what those stories do too. It's like a super community. So, you may not ever meet these people that are in there, but you can be inspired by them and they can be a part of your community.
Absolutely. I love that. Your community doesn't necessarily have to be someone you even know.
That's right.
I get that from Napoleon Hill. He has the book Think and Grow Rich. And that's one of the things he talks about, mastermind. He's like, yeah, you can read biographies of people that are dead, and you can learn from them, right?
You can.
Right. And I also love the fact that you mentioned alongside with community, just having that accountability partner, and that is so important too, because when you make goals real, like everybody usually doesn't want to look bad, right? They want their word to mean something. So if you say, and that could be a professional, could be somebody you love, your spouse, et cetera. You say, look, I'm going to get out of debt by next summer, and I'm just going to have a monthly check-in with you, during our date. We have a money date, and see how am I doing? Just keep me to the fire, right? Like
Exactly. And you got to have somebody who's bold enough to do that, right? I remember being in college and I had a roommate and we worked out a lot together. And then one day we both just didn't tell each other like, hey, are we going to work out? And then that just accumulated over time. And next thing you know, we weren't working out anymore. So you got to have people in your corner and we're friends to this day, but we still haven't brought it up.
next time you speak to him. That's so funny.
Exactly. I was just like, we're going to talk about goals, she and and I'm going to have to bring that one up. Like, we need to talk about 20 years later why we haven't worked out together and
ever since. That's so funny.
Since. Yeah. So you definitely want to have somebody who's willing to say, let's do it. Let's do it.
There's a lot of power in that. Going back to working out, I remember I used to work out with my friend Castro, And this was back when I lived in Washington Heights. We would meet up at the gym at 5:30 in the morning. And let me tell you, I would not have been getting up by myself to go to the gym, but I knew he was there going to meet me and waiting for me. Right? So like I had to do it. Right? It's just because I don't want to look bad. I don't want to make him get up early and then I don't show up, right?
You don't want to, you don't want to do that. No, that's fantastic.
Yeah, use that to your advantage, right?
You have to use that to your advantage. And I know like sometimes you don't even have to know the people. I had an example. I did Dale Carnegie. They had a leadership training group. I don't know if you've heard of that, but yeah, Dale Carnegie, basically we had to give speeches every week. And there was a point where this was right before I changed careers. I got up and I said, I'm going to change careers. And I'm going to buy a property and I'm going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to happen in 6 months. And so I didn't even know those people, but because I spoke it out and told them, and they didn't even hold me accountable to it. But the fact that I put it out there in the atmosphere, it happened. 6 months later, I did change careers. And then maybe 9 months later, I was able to buy a place, and it was just like, wow, I spoke that out back in March and now we're in August and we're at the end of the year and this is all happening. And so there's some power to in speaking and putting your words out there in the atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm such a big believer of that. It's something that I've been fortunate enough to be exposed to. And, I mentioned this in other episodes where I have a vision board in my office. I have handwritten down goals. I have posted clippings of things that I wanted to do, so even like this very podcast, I remember I had the logo designed and I had the logo pasted on this clipboard. I didn't have anything else, I hadn't bought the microphones yet, all the equipment, nothing, but it was there, right? And then you put a date on it. And then all of a sudden, the people, the things, the resources, they start showing up. You attract, it's the law of attraction, so you get what you focus on, good or bad, And so obviously it's not just sit here and wish something is going to happen. You're going to make it happen with the work that you're going to put in. But at the same time, there is definitely something very powerful about writing your goals down and putting them out there in the atmosphere, like you say, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is awesome. So I know the book is coming out sometime in August, September, right?
August is when it'll come.
Okay, so for those listening, I'm going to put a link in the show notes, but just for those listening, tell us where they can find you, where they can find the book, website, social media.
Yes, absolutely. So I have an Instagram page. Money and Moves is where I'm pretty active on there. I'm also active on LinkedIn, but I'll start with Instagram because I do have one of those, the link in the bio, and you can click on that. It'll have the actual Indiegogo page. I don't have it memorized right now.
Yeah, no worries. I'll put it in the show notes. So
Okay,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, so it'll have the Indiegogo page. So find me at Money and Moves on Instagram, LinkedIn. You can find me, Shehara Wooten, and then Facebook. I have a page, Your Story Financial, and the book. Like I said, some of the people will get a signed paperback copy. So that will be awesome to be able to get that out to folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you listening, I bought a package from Shehara, which includes 5 books, but I am keeping one of them for myself. So I will have a drawing. All you need to do is leave a review on iTunes for the podcast. Make it a nice one, obviously. And send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com with the screenshot of it. And I will put all the names of the people who do that into a drawing. And 4 people will get a signed copy of the paperback when it's published. So that's all. That's simple. No catches. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm not putting you on any crazy mailing list. That's simple. Send an email with the screenshot of your review, and then you'll be in the drawing for hopefully be one of the winners.
Yes, I love it. Getting the word out to more people.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Shehara, for coming on and sharing your story. And I'm just very glad to have gotten to know you and continue to see your success. So I'm excited to see what you're going to do next. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Luis. I really appreciate being on here today.
My pleasure. All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, send an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.